What is up, YouTube? So I just got some really cool news. I'm ready. I'm late for work. I'm trying to get out the house. It's good morning, everyone who's just waking up, but ready to go to work. New York Times article is coming out on crashed UFOs. This tweet went out from Brian Johnson on UFO Twitter early this morning. It's got almost 800 likes and counting. So we're expecting an article from the New York Times to come out on these UFO crashes and stuff. So I wanted to do a whole video on UFO crashes and talk about some of these key details. So one of the ones I wanted to talk about was this. No, not that. Let me find the crash site from I had up. Okay. Well, that's important too. We'll cover that later. Where the heck is this now? And I can't find it. Oh my God, come on now. List of UFO crash sites. Here it is. Boom. Come on. Now it's going to crash my computer bringing this up. All right. So on this page, I linked to this link in the description. Once again, it's called the UFO Crash List, and it's on ufoevidence.org. And this is a whole list of all the UFO crashes that have been documented or reported since 1946. So this Splitzenberg, Norway incident. That's where I guess NATO naval officers were chasing this UFO, and it dropped a. I'm not sure if this is the case in Norway, but there was a case in Denmark where a UFO they chased by NATO intelligence actually dropped a piece of metal that was recovered, and that's on. You can find that whole article on Black Vault, Denmark UFO crash material. Yeah, so this is the article here. I should post this up as well in the description so people can check this out. So this is a documented case where actual metal was recovered from a UFO. There's a chain of custody from NATO sending it to the U.S. Army all the way up to Material Command, where it then went into a black hole and disappeared off the face of the planet. And there's pictures of this material. It looks very similar to this Bob White artifact. A lot of these UFOs seem to drop pieces of metal or metal ingots with these weird crystalline formations and shapes in them, pitted, and the materials have been. They're out there. This Bob White has one of these objects, and I guess one of these was recovered in this CIC document from the 1940s, and went into U.S. military hands, and then eventually, I guess it went to Battelle for metals analysis. Battelle would have been the #1 contractor chosen by scientists of that era. Battelle, the Memorial Institute is in Columbus, Ohio, which is just 45 minutes from Dayton. So it's just a short trip from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where the Roswell material was allegedly stored and brought to after it left Fort Worth. After it left Roswell, went to Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, and then went on to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. Of course, Ohio and Wright-Patterson is in Dayton, which is just 45 minutes from Columbus, where Battelle's headquarters is. And Battelle, being the metallurgy experts of the day, did a lot of research into advanced metals for tank armor and other metallurgy research for the military. A lot of classified research into metals. And apparently in J. Allen Hynek's notes and files, it came out that there was this Pinnacle Memorandum, this memo called the Pinnacle Memorandum. And the Pinnacle Memorandum shows this all should be covered in this New York Times article if we're expecting any type of disclosure to occur. I'm really scared for this New York Times article. A lot of mainstream media is just direct propaganda these days, nothing to do with the truth, and it's really sad. So it would be a very a floozy, I guess, a flop, actually see any kind of real information or truth about UFO crashes and material recoveries coming out in these this new upcoming New York Times article on crashed UFOs, which you see being hyped around UFO Twitter and other places. Remember people were hyping up the New York Times article that came out in 2018, which sort of jump-started this whole interest in UAP and whatnot. Again, I do not have a very high level of confidence in our Operation Mockingbird CIA programmed and controlled mainstream media to actually report anything close to or resembling the truth. But I'm here to point out to people what to expect, what should be in there, but what not to expect, because we know that most of the time that governments engage with the media. It was revealed through the Church Committee, and when Operation Mockingbird was first revealed, they have a bid budget of about $200 million that they spend annually just on propaganda and mind control and misdirection, deception. Of just paying people in the media to lie for them, or to slant stories, or to edit certain stories which aren't, conducive to the, agenda out of the feed altogether, so that they don't make it there. This Pinnacle Memorandum document, super important. They found the Roswell lab was named, that the debris was confirmed. The generals and people who sent it to Wright-Patterson for analysis. The paperwork's there. There's a bunch of material progress reports issued by Wright-Patterson to Battelle in the late 1940s, which detailed how to analyze metals of unknown origin and unknown construction, and how to dissolve those metals in chlorine gas, measure the off gases to tell what was in those metals. And then there was a whole bunch of series of papers in this progress report on how to reverse engineer certain types of titanium alloys, a whole bunch of titanium alloys. In fact, there were 3 pages specifically on titanium nickel alloys, which 10 years later, after the Roswell crash in 1958, would lead to the development of nitinol memory foil, memory wire, a nickel titanium alloy, which is shown in these phase diagrams from the 1940s in their Battelle's original analysis and study on nickel titanium alloys. But they weren't actually developed until 1958 at, of course, nickel Ni, titanium Ti, Nol, NOL, Naval Ordnance Research Labs, where it was developed at Naval Ordnance Research Labs. So nickel titanium wasn't developed for 10 years later at naval laboratories. But the evidence is there quite clear in the scientific data that they knew about these materials from debris recovered at Roswell, potentially, most likely Roswell debris, that they were trying to develop these memory alloys from materials that they recovered at Roswell. And numerous witnesses to the crash at Roswell did report these.
Said, "Get your ass over here to my office."
A number of people reported the material switch at Roswell, that it was, they switched the story for a weather balloon and radar target, and showed that to the media and the press, said that the thing was a weather balloon. But numerous witnesses who actually touched and handled the material all describe it as this memory foil, this foil that you could bend and fold up into a ball, and that you let it go, it would fold back and go right back mirror smooth into its original shape. So these alloys were found and reported by numerous witnesses at Roswell. Definitely not Mylar, definitely not radar weather balloon target. You look up the history of Mylar. Mylar is an interesting polyester films, or BPET, the history, they go back to the mid-1950s. So this DuPont was actually the ones that created the first Mylar films. And they weren't until the mid-1950s. To say that this was a Mylar weather balloon and radar target from the 1940s, it predates the invention of Mylar. So what was this material? Because it probably wasn't Mylar, unless it was some early space program version of the same material that wasn't invented until 5 years later by DuPont. So there's a big question about this whole Mylar issue, this material that was recovered at Roswell, saying that it was Mylar weather balloon target, but all of the project, we can go back to the whole project, Project Mogul, which was headed by a scientist named Louis Walter Alvarez. He was the balloon scientist in charge of Project Mogul, an experimental physicist, inventor, and professor who was actually awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1968 for his discovery of resonant states in particle physics using a hydrogen bubble chamber. Interesting stuff. This guy headed the CIA's Project Mogul, which was the balloon project, but everywhere in the Mogul footage and everywhere in any documentation of anything we can find on Mogul, the balloons, all of the balloons of Project Mogul, right? If you look up Project Mogul balloons, I encourage anyone to find me a picture of a Project Mogul balloon that's made of Mylar, because they're all very clearly made of this plastic cellophane type material. There are some of these metal radar targets which have this material looking similar to Mylar on it, and then they show this what looks like aluminum foil on balsa wood sticks for the big balloon trains that were declassified in 1994, where the Air Force was supposedly admitting to the whole Roswell incident. It was this top secret balloon train project that we were launching against the Soviets, and we had to keep it classified for 50 years just so the Soviets wouldn't find out about what we were doing back then. But so aluminum foil certainly existed, but Mylar not so much until the 1950s. And this radar target that people show in the pictures is balsa wood. So they make it out of balsa wood sticks that hold this Mylar target together. So every single Roswell witness I talked to reported these I-beams, these metal I-beams, Roswell metal I-beams with hieroglyphics. So they had these hieroglyphics on the Roswell metal I-beams, and you'll find numerous pictures of these things, depictions of what they look like according to witness descriptions and stuff. But it's very not consistent with the balsa wood and aluminum foil that would be found in these radar targets. Again, the balloons there's no pictures of any Project Mogul balloon with anything but this plastic cellophane stuff. So it wasn't the actual balloon, and the actual balloon in the photos looked like they were rubber balloons, black rubber. In some of the Roswell photo, the picture of the actual balloon on the ground is not this clear cellophane plastic type material. So lots of interesting materials discrepancies in the official story and what we find in the record. But again, a lot of it's speculation because we don't have a smoking gun of what actually happened out there. But we go to things like Ed Fouche. So you type in Edgar Fouche on YouTube, and you'll notice that you do not find a single fucking video. Everything is hyper censored. You have to go down to like page 2 or 3 until you find actual video with Edgar Fouche, and you'll find this very short clip, very limited clips and stuff. But so you have to type in the full presentation. So here, Edgar Fouche, TR3B, Black Triangle, the full presentation. I think I went to page 3 to actually find the actual video I was looking for, which used to pop up in the very top of search results, as it should when you search for someone's name. Only videos pertaining to that person are what should be returned. But, when they're trying to misdirect and throw you off the trail of stuff, they hide this stuff pretty well, which seems to happen to all my stuff. My videos used to get, 500 people watching live. Now I'm lucky. We got 104 people. Thank you all for watching live. What is up, everyone who tuned in? I'm glad some people are still getting the notifications. There's been a lot of censorship and shadow banning of the information because they do not want this coming out. They want to slowly drip feed it, if that's what's even going on at all. I feel like what's going on right now in the mainstream media is an attempt to kind of cover up these past UFO crashes, the history of these recoveries and how serious they were, and what kind of materials were recovered from them. the fact that there were 2 Project Blue Books during the first U.S. Air Force official investigation into Roswell, that there was a second Project Blue Book which dealt with the materials and actual metals, metallurgy and analysis, which was run by Dr. Howard C. Cross of Battelle. And that was all revealed through the Pinnacle Memorandum, which was in J. Allen Hynek's notes. J. Allen Hynek, for those of you who don't know, he was head of Project Blue Book, and one of the scientists that was tasked with investigating UFOs for the U.S. government. And he walked away with some very different conclusions than the hardcore skeptic that he had entered the phenomenon. When he first, came into UFOs, he was a very hardcore skeptic, very convinced that this was all absolute nonsense by a bunch of, misled and confused, stupid people trying to sell grifts for money. And, there's a lot of that in ufology, and there's a good amount, 90% of the field is, this mixing it up with poltergeists and dino beavers and all this nonsense. But there is a certain small faction of ufology that's dedicated to legitimate scientific inquiry and research, and is really genuinely interested in finding, real answers and stuff. That's what we do here. We try to keep it focused on pressuring the government for full disclosure, because we know that, this New York Times article that's inbound coming out on crashed UFOs, my prediction is that it's going to be similar to, the other things we've seen, the UFOs from the History Channel. So I got a magazine article. Oh, I wish I could find that magazine. It's in I think it's in my backpack. I brought it to New Mexico with me. Right before I left, I bought this UFOs and History Channel. History magazine, Roswell. Okay, this was the cover of the this is the whoops, it was that one right there. Yeah, so this 75 years later, History Channel magazine, and they put this UFOs in the search for alien life, and what happened at Roswell. There's this whole article that they wrote in this magazine out in the mainstream, and in it they make just all these glaring omissions. They don't cover half the data or half the information, and it's official story. There was a small crash site. In fact, there were 3 tank carriers that were called up to Roswell to haul away the debris. There was a massive cleanup effort. Reported that there was a cordon section on 3 roads where the military had set up cordons and roadblocks, and that they had sectioned off the entire area for miles while they did the search and rescue and cleanup operation of the Roswell debris. So there's just numerous lies in this mainstream media magazine article that I read, talking about the Roswell crash and what really happened. And the cover-up's alive and well on all this stuff. You go back to Roswell, we have the weather officer at Fort Worth who's saying that, he was commissioned to say this thing was a weather balloon and brought out in front of the press that day. Colonel Du Bois, the highest rank, he was a general when he retired. He was, General Ramey's right-hand man out at Fort Worth. And you have him on his deathbed, coming forward at 90 years old in 1991 to say that there was a material switch and that wasn't the original material, including, Jesse Marcel Jr., the head U.S. Air Force intelligence officer on the base, who they made look like an idiot who couldn't tell the difference between a weather balloon and a flying saucer. And Jesse Marcel Jr., very well educated and schooled on everything aerial, all things flying at the time. And to think that he confused a weather balloon for a flying saucer when he testified on, numerous times after the fact to there being a material switch. You can see it, just the look on his face says 1,000 words as it is. If you look at these original photos, the bewilderment, confusion. See the black right there. You can see the black. That's the actual balloon itself. So the balloons you see from this Project Mogul stuff are made out of this clear cellophane type material. So it's really interesting why he's posing next to a black weather balloon in the photo. The black weather balloon makes me believe that this was something that was found on the base and then brought there as the material switch. It's interesting. It has like these metallic I-beam type things. It shows. which is interesting if they're aluminum or what they're made out of. I'm curious because this is lots of interesting things, because you have these high-ranking intelligence officers who are directly involved with the military and the crash debris, saying that there was a material switch and that the original material was swapped with something else and that there was a cover-up. You have the U.S. Air Force in 1994 admitting, case closed, Roswell, right? With their Roswell report that the U.S. Air Force released saying that the case was closed, 1994. Then 2 years later, Philip Corso comes out with a book saying that, no, we recovered, all kinds of materials, and there's reverse engineering projects and stuff that went on for decades. Now, back to Edgar Fouche, who I talked about before. We tried searching for him and couldn't find the presentation. You can't find a lot of this stuff now. It's obscured, and we get Bob Lazar out there in the forefront on Joe Rogan 5 times. But when you have guys that were in 1998 talking about metamaterials and quasicrystals research that went on out at Area 51, directly related to alien technology, it kind of boggles your mind, because the metamaterials research that I found in the literature and anywhere else, you find a few scant articles about it here and there dating back in the 90s and stuff. But really, the literature on metamaterials and invisibility cloaking doesn't start until about 2002, which was 4 years after Ed Fouche came out with this. And then the whole stuff on quasicrystals is even more interesting. That dates back a little bit further, and you find some more documentation for that, but you don't find any of the fact that Area 51 was researching this stuff, and that we know now that metamaterials can be used for invisibility cloaks and all this stuff. It's been super revealing to me through my research of getting into the details and the nitty-gritty on the scientists who worked on these projects and were involved, like Luis Alvarez, the scientist that headed the balloon project for Mogul for the U.S. Army. In any case, this is nothing compared to the revelations that we've had about UFO material being sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and a number of metallurgists, scientists who are experts in metal science, testified when interviewed that they were given materials that they had no idea what these materials were, that they didn't think they could have possibly been manufactured by anyone on Earth because of their complexity and advancement in the material structure. So Dr. Howard Cross ran this project for Battelle, but then you have guys like Dr. John Elroy Center was the guy's name, John Elroy Center. And Center was at the center of this Battelle controversy to investigate these UFO metals, which was I thought was super interesting. That this Battelle scientist, Elroy Center, doing his name is listed on that 1949 Wright-Patterson issued document which explored all these titanium alloys, which could be a basis for these memory metals that they recovered at Roswell, and we're trying to figure out what the heck they were and trying to understand them. This is the core science of this. They recovered these materials from Roswell. They sent them to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base commissioned Battelle, the top metallurgy contractors in the military-industrial complex at the time, to analyze these materials, and they were given to a couple key scientists, including Elroy Center. Fawn and Craighead are also the names of the two other scientists. I don't have pictures of them or interviews with them, but Irina Scott, formerly of Battelle, she started investigating this whole story about Battelle being involved in this UFO metals research, and she interviewed this guy Elroy Center, who talked about, he said that he was given materials and told to analyze them, said that they were Russian or Chinese technology, and that try to figure out how they worked. And then he never saw them again, but he was very curious about those materials and was actually believed they might have come from off-world. So this is the real the real nuts and bolts. It goes back to 1947. You go on the list there and you find that there were all sorts of UFO crashes, not just Roswell. People talk about Roswell the most, but you have this Pinnacle Memorandum directly implicating that there was a second Project Blue Book run under Battelle. But then you have, since Roswell, 13th February 1948, Aztec, New Mexico crash, 12 bodies. 7th of July 1948, Mexico, south of Laredo, Texas, 1 body recovered. 1949, Roswell, New Mexico, 1 ET living. So two years later, after Roswell, there's another, I guess, either an alien found wandering the desert for 2 years or another crash where they found an alien. That might be disputed. 1952, the Splitzenberg, Norway case. 14th August 1952, the Eli, Nevada case. 10th September 1950, Albuquerque, New Mexico. 18th of April 1953, southwestern Arizona. 20th of May 1953, the Kingman, Arizona case, a very famous case. 19th of June 1943, Laredo, Texas case. 1953, Johannesburg, South Africa case. Then Dutton, Montana, 1953. Brighton, England, 1955. Carlsbad, New Mexico, 1957. Timmersdorfer, Germany, 1961. Holloman Air Force Base, New Mexico, 1962. Fort Riley, Kansas, 1964. Northwestern Arizona, 1966. 5 crashes reported in the Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio area in 1968, between 1966 and 1968. And that was a very interesting... they talked about this. They said it was in Pennsylvania. They told the people that were working on it that it was in Pennsylvania. But I have documents of people that went and talked about, they said there was a cordon set up in this area and around the forest, that they had rented out one of the local hotels to all the contractors who came in from the government to go and actually work on the case out there. That they were working out of this hotel and going out and being shuttled back and forth out to this area in the woods where they were recovering this material from. And that the materials that they recovered, there was a piece this guy reported about a foot by a foot wide, and that it was super light. It felt so light that it could almost blow away in your hand, even though it was like almost an inch thick of material. And the craft was allegedly made out of this, super lightweight metal. And he said that his watch stopped working when he brought it near the metal, and other weird effects would happen, electromagnetic effects around this material. Very interesting stuff. 1972 Moroccan Sahara Desert case, 1973 Northwestern Arizona case, this 1974 Chihuahua, New Mexico case. That was super interesting case because I was looking up some videos and talk about that. That was one where they actually found a disc intact, apparently. And the Mexican government apparently, heard about this thing. They had tracked it and were going to the crash site, and someone interrupted them and came there. Something happened to all the New Mexican officials, and this thing disappeared. And they think that the U.S. government came in and took it. They had like a team that was ready for these types of things, and that they got there first. Australian Desert, 1974, Northwestern Arizona, 77 case, Southwestern Ohio, 77, Tabasco, Mexico case, Bolivia, Afghanistan, South Africa, Siberia, Greece, New York. There's also that Brazil case that's not listed on here, that they found that material that Dr. Garry Nolan analyzed. So lots of interesting stuff. People, $2 super chat. Thank you, Nerd Warrior. Laredo, Texas case. Again, another interesting case. 4 bodies. And another knock super sticker, $100. I don't know, 100 knock super sticker. Tom Rader, Grendel, thank you for the super chats. Very much appreciated. Thank you, everyone watching live. Let's moving forward. Yes. So, aliens sure crash a lot. Well, it's not to say that these are aliens, okay? These are UFO crashes. That means they're unidentified objects that crashed. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're aliens. It could be, Office of in reconnaissance, the NRO spy satellites. It could be an NRO spy satellite that crashed. It's a UFO. It's not alien. It doesn't mean it's aliens. It just means it's a UFO. So, again, yeah, it seems like a lot of crashes. If there's extraterrestrials who have the technology to travel interstellar and warp space-time and do invisibility and all this stuff, it's kind of curious why there'd be so many crashes. Unless we shot them all down, right? Which, again, you talk about cases like the Battle of Los Angeles, where this UFO appeared over Los Angeles and was fired at by military anti-aircraft guns and missiles and fighters and everything. They shot the hell out of this thing, and all our guns and ammunition and weapons were completely useless against its shields or whatever the heck it had up. But it just sat there and took it. So it's not like the whole idea of shooting these things down. It might not be that easy. They might have some really advanced, armor or even force fields that protect them. So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to believe that we shot that many UFOs down. I think a lot of these could be explained by other things, maybe top secret experimental craft, secret space program stuff, other stuff. Doesn't mean that they're all aliens. Okay, they could be aliens. Doesn't mean they're not aliens, but it doesn't mean that just because it's a UFO crash doesn't mean it's aliens. All right. Anyways, let's take some more. Let's look some more into this, right? So, a link you drop, yeah, dude, drop a link, drop something. Come on, like we got 155 people watching. This is great. This is awesome stream for a morning, man. I almost want to keep it going all day. But I can't. I got to get ready and go to work soon. Battelle Memorial Institute is where these materials were brought. It's where scientists were given pieces of these materials to study. Battelle currently runs all of our national labs. They have contracts to manage all of our national laboratories. So if you were going to keep something like this secret, Battelle would be an organization to look towards. And we'll see. We'll see with this New York Times article what gets mentioned and what doesn't. So if they don't talk about metamaterials and quasicrystals, if they don't talk about Battelle, if they don't talk about nitinol and memory metals and the memories metals research that went on at Battelle right after 1940s, right after these crashes, they had developed in those documents the second progress report for Wright, Patterson, Battelle, right, 1949, Deep Secrets of a UFO Think Tank. So boom. So Rand Corporation was involved with these think tanks on trying to figure out what this stuff was, and also Battelle was interested in analyzing these materials. So if they don't mention these sorts of things, then can we really be sure we're dealing with, disclosure, or are we dealing with something else? I feel like what's going to happen is there's going to be a cover up. They're going to put out scientists in the mainstream to say that, oh, well, we have some of these materials and we're going to talk about this, but they're not going to be the actual materials. They're not going to be the real science. And there's going to be a limited hangout of information. It's going to be released. And the majority of what they have and what they're still having kept secret will not be released, will not be analyzed because of national security reasons. But there'll be a trickle drip to the public of certain things, so like metamaterials and invisibility cloaks. All right. I've already mentioned how they're building, stealth tanks out at BAE. We showed that video a couple weeks ago of these new stealth armor tanks with the technology that they're developing based on a lot of this thermal metamaterial imaging technologies that were developed out at Area 51. Allegedly in response or working off of alien technology that they were reverse engineering out there. But again, that's speculation and rumor, right? But the whole issue is metamaterials and quasicrystals are used for these invisibility. They're used for these warp drive type applications and building these types of things. We're currently working on a lab of our own to build and develop these types of technologies ourselves in an effort to force disclosure through technologies research. But again, in the mainstream, you have certain scientists that are put out there as you know, like Luis Alvarez as the balloon scientist. And that really covers up for, you know, guys like Dr. Howard Cross and Elroy Center, who did the actual metals research on, you know, who would have been the ones to actually look at the metals recovered from Roswell, analyze those, and try to figure out for the government what those materials were and how to build them or reverse engineer their construction, which is in those Battelle progress reports, the nitinol wired nickel titanium alloy diagrams, the phase diagrams that they had put together. They were trying to figure out what this material was. They determined that it was a type of nickel titanium alloy, but they did there's something else going on with this material that's beyond our current manufacturing capabilities and technologies. Yeah, there's a number of people talking about this New York Times article coming out on crashed UFOs. One of them was Brian Johnson on UFO Twitter, in case people wondering where we got that from. And apparently it's going to happen on Friday. And Garry P. Nolan is going to be involved with it. I've been trying to get Garry Nolan on for an interview to talk with him because I'm really curious to see what else he has to say. Of course, he's, I guess, an expert in a lot of biological systems and human immunology and biocomputation and stuff. So be interesting to get some material scientists on with him to really quiz him on material science and see what he knows about the material science end of this. But yeah, an interesting guy. He admits that the CIA hired him to go and look at these alien metals and analyze them for the CIA, and that they're now allowing him to come forward and disclose some of this stuff and talk about it. So that kind of makes me a little apprehensive and suspicious, because anytime, you know, we have a three-letter agency involved, is usually, you know, some kind of manipulation or something going on. So I get a little bit worried about that, but, you know, I'm mostly curious about, you know, getting more of these materials declassified and brought out to the public, where public scientists from all open universities everywhere can analyze them and take a look at them and talk about them and really get this conversation going, because this is where the hangup is. We have the scientific community, you know, starting to get interested because there's all these high level, you know, people talking about UFOs and Pentagon people reporting this stuff. But then the scientific community kind of rolls their eyes when they hear about, you know, things like the dino beavers and the poltergeists and, you know, all the other crazy nonsense that we hear about Skinwalker Ranch and some of these other things that got associated with this OSAP and ATIP program that really just destroy the scientific credibility of a lot of these topics and give it no basis to stand on. So that's kind of discouraging for getting the scientific community involved or interested in UFOs. But if they were to declassify that, hey, we recovered actual materials, you know, we have this is a documented case that we have known about going back to the 1940s, where they actually recovered materials from a flying saucer. And you know, if we can get these types of materials brought to the scientific community for analysis, we're going to be going somewhere. This is going to be the game changer within the scientific community, because now it's no longer an issue of, well, where's the evidence? No, now you have fucking material evidence right in your fucking hands, and you can't deny that anymore. You can't Mick West it or Bill Nye it and say, oh, we don't really know. No, it's in your fucking face. Here it is, bro. And I'm sorry for swearing and stuff, but this shit gets me heated and pissed, because I've been doing this for 20 years trying to get the truth out about this, that I've been researching this and watching cover up after cover up after cover up, and the mass manipulation in the media. When you have guys like Jeremy Corbell getting on Joe Rogan 4 times to spread Bob Lazar, you know, a case that I researched with Ed Fouche, a real former Area 51 employee, and we debunked the hell out of this dude years ago, proved to him to be a liar and a fraud, involved with Richard Doty and the Aviary and Falcon and all those guys that came out in 1988, the year before Bob Lazar, to sell us all the stories about MJ-12 and UFOs and the government Bible. And then we got element 115, Bob Lazar with his element 115 science, you know, polluting and clouding up the airwaves and just muddying the water and clogging the system with a load that needs to be dumped out so that we can actually get some real secrecy and real investigations. Everyone's looking at this blank part of the desert down at Papoose Lake where Bob Lazar said this S4 facility was. I've been investigating and looking for that facility and doing this investigation for 20 years now. If I had found any single shred of evidence of any of this stuff to support it, or that there was anything real to it, I would have blown this up and I would have exposed it by now, way bigger and way better than that idiot of a researcher Jeremy Corbell could ever hope to. That guy needs to take his sorry ass to the woodshed and just go sit in the corner with a dunce cap on and shut the hell up, because dude, you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to UFOs. I watch you on Joe Rogan and I get sick to my stomach. It makes me want to throw up in my mouth to watch you and Bob Lazar get millions and millions of views to sell people absolute pure garbage. This element 115 stuff that you didn't predict. Every scientist in history who ever worked on element 115 predicted this. Okay, any scientists like Glenn Seaborg out at Berkeley, who worked on all the pioneering research to discover all of these heavy elements, right? They will laugh at this kind of, they laugh at this kind of nonsense. Any educated physicist, I started, you see this stuff and you start researching and you want to go into physics because, hey, alien technology and stuff. But then you get into the real physics and you find that it's so much better and there's so much more information. It's so much more interesting. That's another thing. We're trying to get alienscientist.com back up online. I had a huge website up here with tons of information. I still got it all. It's a backup. I want to re-put it all together and put that up as a resource for people if people are interested in it. We've been trying to get information out, trying to interview real scientists who actually worked on these projects to get the documentation out there. But again, it's so dry and it's so much like school or education that people don't want to hear that crap. They want the fancy music and they want to hear about Bob Lazar talking about how he saw aliens and flying discs. And that's all people want to know. And that's all people care about. And if they got wide-eyed hype men sitting there, telling people, disclosure's coming, just trust in me, get me on. We need to get Bob in congressional hearings, dude. No, we don't. We need to get Howard Cross and we need to get Battelle Memorial Institute in congressional hearings to explain why there were two Project Blue Books. One that studied materials and metals and what happened to those metals. We need to declassify those metals that were recovered, that have been documented. UFOs have been dropping these metals. We need scientists analyzing those metals and coming up with real science, real physics, SEM imaging, crystal lattice, crystals, microwave scatter diffraction, X-ray crystallography, all that kind of stuff needs to be done on these materials to analyze them scientifically, to tell what they are and actually learn something actionable. Because in 30 years, element 115 has not brought us any actionable scientific intelligence on UFOs or how to build them or reverse engineer them. Whereas, just in a couple years, we've learned so much from these arts parts, these terahertz band, this terahertz gap and the spectrum, and that metamaterial that was recovered and analyzed by so many people. Mick West said it was slag from some aluminum refining process that produces slag that looks very similar to this. That's all good and dandy, but when you look into the real U.S. Air Force, Lockheed Martin research, and you read the scientists who are working on these types of things, you find out that there's a lot more physics involved than just some smashing some metals together. We can build these materials, that'd be great. If we can figure out how they work and how to build them for specific functions, that'd be even better. These types of wave fronts and wave guides that do different things to incoming and wave. waves. So if we can get a material like this, that we pump this wave from inside the craft and shoot it into this shell and the material on the outside of the shell, and that material can warp that wave and turn it into a high frequency gravitational wave of that spectrum, then we could basically create or generate gravitational waves through these metamaterials on the surface of the skin of the craft. And we could use those with wave pumping to actually warp and distort the fabric of space-time. And that's how a lot of scientists who study these things believe how these craft are operating with, no wings or propellers or movable parts or jets or any of this stuff. So again, maybe we're crazy. Maybe I'm just some idiot and, who is late for work and needs to go do construction work right now because, I refuse to get a job working for these people and keeping secrets. And there's no money in, investigating this stuff and revealing the true secrets. I'd make a lot more money if I was, Jeremy Corbell lying through my teeth on Joe Rogan, being this mouthpiece for ufology to basically lead it off a cliff and discredit it and make people think that we're all idiots, like any scientist does when they watch a guy like Jeremy Corbell open his mouth on these mainstream media networks that get millions and millions of views. Meanwhile, New York Times is going to put this article out, and I guarantee you they're not going to mention a goddamn thing about Pinnacle Memorandum, metamaterials, quasicrystals, or any of these reverse engineering material science research that went on and is involved with this UFO stuff, including, the OSAP and DOD reports, these DIRD, Defense Intelligence Reference documents that exist out there, which are packed full of real awesome science, man. Tons of sources in the description and the bibliographies of these, Defense Intelligence Reference documents, which were unclassified as part of this ATIP project. But we're, again, getting dino beavers and warp portals and that kind of stuff put out to the mainstream. And that's what people are focusing on. They're not really digging deep into the science or going beyond that. And the real scientists are looking at this with their eyes crossed, saying, what the hell is this nonsense that Jeremy Corbell's talking about with these dino beavers and this nonsense that gets put out there in the mainstream and to the public. And no one's really looking into, all the scientific research that's being done and has been done into how these things actually fly, how to produce new forms of lift, new forms of propulsion, new types of technologies that can lead to invisibility and stealth cloaking and other technologies. Again, that's all classified, so you can't really talk about it. And if you do, you get your channel shadow banned and you don't get invited on shows like Joe Rogan. So I want everyone to go and help me out here. Okay. If everyone can do me this favor and go on, so Duke University doing tons of the pioneering metamaterials research. They can reflect sound waves in any direction. They can do crazy things with sound just through structures, just through building these structures and what the structures of these materials can do to incoming light. And that's exactly what the structures are that we're talking about when we talk about these types of skin coatings and metamaterials and stuff. So if everyone can go to joerogan.com and go to the contact page, please recommend me as a guest. Go in here and sponsor me as a guest. Tell him, screw Jeremy Corbell. You've had this dude on 4 times, okay? What else is there for you to possibly bring this dude back on to say any more of that he hasn't already said? You give me one shot to come on your show, and I'll blow your fucking mind. I will blow it harder than Jeremy Corbell could ever hope to. That lying crap shoot motherfucker. Yeah. In any case, please tell Joe Rogan, get some real UFO people on, get other UFO people on. Tell them to get me and Jeremy Corbell and Bob Lazar on together so we can have a debate over all this, dude. It's like, respecting past guests goes a long way with Joe Rogan. Don't send disrespect. Well, then I don't care, bro. I don't need Joe Rogan, and I don't really care. But my whole issue is that He's had retards on his show, liars, straight up liars. Jeremy Corbell came on his show and straight up lied, dude. Okay, this is not disrespect. It's truth. It's fact. Okay, I can disrespect this guy because he's a liar. He claimed that Mike Thigpen, that he interviewed this guy, that he confirmed Bob Lazar's story, and then he said this numerous times. And then the real recent time he's on Joe Rogan, he won't even mention the name Mike Thigpen because he's a liar. Because he didn't interview this guy. He has no proof and no evidence. Yeah, my name's Jeremy RYS is my real name. Okay. You can look me up on Twitter. Oh, sorry. Jesus. What is going on here? Yes. So please go recommend me as a guest, alien scientist Jeremy Riss. I would love to come on and school him on some real UFO technology. I have a whole report I put together. I'm going to be presenting this stuff at the I'm going to be presenting all this research, history of government anti-gravity research going back to every single case that I could possibly find in the last 20 years of researching this stuff. I've interviewed most of these scientists that are still alive, or including ones that recently died, like Mark McCandlish. We interviewed him right before he died. He passed. One of the first guests we had on the APEC conference. You know, I talk about all the real science, all the real physics. I have math and equations to back everything up. Unlike Bob Lazar, I will blow this thing out of the water as far as classified research. I'll drop names of real scientists who served time for bringing documents home related to their work. We can get into all this and really blow it out the water. I'm going to be presenting this presentation next month to the Secret Space Program's Applications Conference. So there's a whole conference of investors out in Silicon Valley that are interested in all these technologies that are being declassified out of UFO programs and stuff. Of course, this stuff isn't talked about in the mainstream. They don't talk about it. They don't bring it on Joe Rogan. I'm going to get back on Timcast again, dude. Definitely. I've talked to those guys. And yeah, liars will not debate. They refuse to debate. So yeah, I'm Michael Schratt. I was planning to have him on tomorrow night and talk to him about it. I'm going to give him a call after the show here and make sure he's still on. And if he's still on, then we can expect Michael Schratt to come on tomorrow night to talk more about some UFO cases and some of his research and stuff. Maybe we'll get into a little bit on Roswell and whatnot. Roswell is just a joke, man. The U.S. Air Force, case closed in 1994. And then, 3 years later, the head of the foreign technology desk in the Army's R&D comes out and says, no, we recovered alien craft from Roswell and we've been reverse engineering it in secret. And that's the truth. And you guys are all liars. And the U.S. Air Force has been still struggling to cover up and keep a hold on the story ever since. Of course, they can't because they fucking lied through their teeth, and they there's no possible way that these Air Force intelligence officers mistook a weather balloon for a goddamn flying saucer, and you're out of your mind retarded if you believe that. The J. Allen Hynek Pentagon files in the Pinnacle Memorandum just prove that there was a second Project Blue Book run by Howard C. Cross, the director of Battelle, and that there was a second Project Blue Book which dealt specifically with the material science end of this, including these nickel titanium phase diagrams and all the research that went into analyzing alloys of unknown origin. And the metallists who worked on it, who later testified that that they believed that they had been given metals of alien origin and told to reverse engineer them. Yeah, so we have that, and we have them, a lot of evidence going back decades of, all this stuff going in the government hiring physicists from Caltech, actual senior staff physicists who have what's called a curriculum vitae, tons of published papers. Bob Lazar hasn't published a single paper anywhere that anyone can find me or show me, including his alleged master's thesis from MIT or Caltech, whichever it was, his master's thesis on magnetohydrodynamics. There's no evidence of it anywhere. All crap. It's all fake. And that's why it's put out there in the mainstream media by your, Operation Mockingbird controlled lies. to misdirect. And I really think that there could be something more to this Project Palladium stuff. A lot of these radar reflectors being reported as UFOs, these balloons from Project Nemesis and Project Palladium, which date back to the 1940s, believe you know. So we got Jeremy Corbell on here saying that, oh, we have these UFO reports going back to the 60s. There's no way they could be these CIA technologies or anything. When the CIA patents on those technologies date to 1945, 1949, and you can prove it. You can look that up, bro. So yeah, I have to go to work, man. I really do. I'm late already, and I've shared enough. I've talked enough. Please stay tuned for this UFO lies that are going to be coming out in the New York Times. Everyone get ready for it. Let's not hold our breath. This is the New York Times we're talking about, people. It's not a legitimate disclosure organization. This is operation controlled, Operation Mockingbird controlled media as you can get. So I'll be very surprised if this New York Times article comes out talking about UFO crashes and crash recoveries, if they actually mention any of the anything that leads to actionable scientific intelligence, like the stuff we just laid out and talked about with the actual metals and metals analysis. And I'll be very surprised if anything comes of that. What needs to happen is full disclosure. These metals need to come out of these programs, be declassified, and they need to be put out in the mainstream so that real scientists can analyze this stuff and report on it. And this stuff needs to be fully declassified. We have the technologies out there. We're working on them as we speak. And we know it's not element 115, and you need to stop with the disinformation and stop with the propaganda and stop pretending that these UFO crashes or these UFO things started in 2004, because they didn't. They started a long time ago, and there's a lot more history that's being glossed over and covered up by the new ufology mainstream media version of this public version of disclosure that they want to disclose everything, but they want to do it their own way, and they want to rebrand it. They want to say, oh, well, it's UAPs now, not UFOs, and they go back. It all goes back to Bigelow Aerospace and this OSAP program. It doesn't, so that they can hide the fact that there's been numerous crashes, going back way earlier than that. There's been documented reports of materials that have been recovered and analyzed by scientists at our top metallurgy, institutions. This is the Secret Space Program conference that I'm going to out in next month in September. So people check that out. Look forward to that. It's coming. There's a number of speakers. I'm on the list, and I'm going to be giving my presentation on a whole host of technologies that I've discovered through my 20 years of research into UFO technologies and science and related top secret reverse engineering projects. So yes, this stuff is being declassified. It is coming out. It is a slow trickle step, and they are blocking the majority of this information from reaching the mainstream media and getting out to very large audiences, which we're trying to counteract. And I hope that some people can reach out to Joe Rogan to get me on there so I can actually, counteract some of this propaganda that's being put out there. And counteract. I don't know how else to compete with that. When I come on here and I'm producing real information that's well researched, well documented, and verifiable. Everything's sourced, and I get 2,000 views. It's very frustrating to do that when you get 2,000, 3,000 views for well researched, well documented, provable, factual based research. And then you sit here and watch a know-nothing idiot like Jeremy Corbell go on Joe Rogan and get 10 million views by spouting absolute nonsense and lies. Purely fabricated, unsubstantiated, baseless, no facts or evidence to support it, just baseless, wide-eyed bullshit. And you get 10 million views. It couldn't be more obvious to me anyway what the heck is really going on with this, that they're doing this on purpose. They're setting these actors up to play a role on purpose in the mainstream, and that it's all being lies. And please keep me informed. My email is thealienscientist@gmail.com. Alienscientist@gmail.com. And send me an email if you know that Corbell is going to be at a conference or he's going to be at an event anywhere. Send me information because I need to go there. I want to confront this lying sack of turd who's misrepresenting all of ufology and all the science of ufology to the entire mainstream community. And I want to teach him a goddamn lesson. So people, please tell me where Jeremy Corbell is going to be. Email me if you know where he's going to be around. We need to confront this guy. We need to put him on the spot. And we need to get these disinfo shill guests off of these mainstream networks getting tens of millions of views and get the real truth out there. Alex Jones, I don't know, man. I've called into Alex Jones a bunch of times, man. And Alex is just, he's more scientifically illiterate than Joe Rogan is, man. And it's just, I don't know. Alex is just, he lost a lot of respect from me with that whole crisis actor nonsense and the Sandy Hook thing, man. I'm really sorry, dude. Yeah, well, the negativity won't help get on Joe Rogan. Yeah, I know. Well, I'm sorry, dude. It's like, it's really hard to be positive when you're sitting here for 20 years, sourcing well-researched, documented scientific fact, and you get 2,000 views compared to 10 million views for some lying shill who doesn't know the difference between, I don't know. It's just, I can't even explain it. It's negativity. I guess you can call it negativity, but how can I be positive? How do I be positive about the situation? Hey, Joe, awesome. You had Jeremy Corbell on again, man. Hey, great job trying to bring disclosure. Like, let's, I don't get it. I don't get it, dude. Agree on negativity, funnel that angry energy into better vibes. Yeah, I don't know what vibes I can have, dude. Like, yeah, I guess we just focus on the real info and just, oh, trollish, dude. That's what the thing. They make me look like I'm a troll. I need a calm, rational argument to present. Yeah, that's what it needs. I can't get all friggin' pissed off at him. It just gets me so mad seeing this guy get millions, tens and millions of views when he lies through his teeth, dude. Obviously, they get paid to lie. We all know this. Yeah, I guess we just focus on the real information, the real energy. Maybe I'll just ignore. I want to ignore Corbell altogether. I would love to never mention that guy's name or never talk about him again. But the fact is, he continues to keep getting on Joe Rogan and keep getting tens of millions of views for pure lies and disinformation, man. That, I'm sorry. I try to be as positive about this as I can, but I can only do so much, man, when you're faced with just absolute nonsense of a guy that has no right or has done no justice to this topic to be given that position. It's sad. It's sad. Oh yeah, I need to grow a beard and dress better. Yeah, maybe I'll get some tattoos, huh? That'd be great, dude. Emotion can make truth look like lies. Dude, they make anything look like lies. Dude, the media does, that's all they do is make things look like lies, dude. Anyways, have a good day. I'm gonna go in and build this whole shower today, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna get paid $3,000 for it at the end of the week, which is more than I've ever made off ufology ever. So yeah, the robot head, dude. Yes. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I need to take some LSD and reset my brain and come up with some positive vibe energy to figure out a new. I'll smoke some DMT and I can have a talk with Joe Rogan or something. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to do that to figure out my vibe and how to connect to these people, because it's frustrating as hell, dude. It's like yelling at the top of my lungs and screaming into the void, and no one's there to hear me, even though I know I'm right. You don't want to go on Rogan. No, I don't want to go on Rogan. You're absolutely right. I do not want to go on Rogan. I don't care about Joe Rogan. In fact, Joe Rogan makes me frustrated as heck to listen to half the time. I just want real information to get out to tens of millions of viewers. I'm tired of seeing liars like Jeremy Corbell get on Joe Rogan and spreading pure disinformation and pure made up lies. That's what I'm tired of. It's nothing to do with me going on Joe Rogan. I don't care. I don't want to go on Joe Rogan. I don't want that kind of popularity. I don't want that kind of fame. I don't want people to recognize me on the street. I don't want people to recognize me when I go to jobs and work. I don't want any of that. What I want is disinformation and liars to get the fuck out of ufology and leave the field to people who actually know what the hell they're talking about. That's what I want. That is what I really care about. At the core is I care about information. I care about truth. Okay. That is really all I care about. It's not about me getting on Joe Rogan for any other reason than to shut down these liars and to show people the truth. And that's all I care about. Screw Joe Rogan. Screw Alex Jones and screw Jeremy Corbell, all these guys. So I don't really care about that. All I have to say. Joe Rogan had his chance. He's had Jeremy Corbell on 4 times, dude. He's shown me everything I need to know about the guy. He's never going to have me on. Let's just admit it. I could have 1,100 people write into him every single day demanding to have me on. You know for a fact that his guests are chosen by his CIA agent handlers, and that he can only have people on that give a certain version of reality, and that's the truth. That's what it looks like to me. Okay, that's what it looks like to everyone else who watches Joe Rogan, who sees the guests that he has on. And I'm sorry, prove me wrong and show me something different. I don't care if you have me on. I don't want to be on Joe Rogan. I really don't. I don't want that kind of views and attention. I don't need that. I just want real information to get out there and people to have something actual educational that they can sink their teeth into, rather than this Element 115 lie nonsense that leads absolutely nowhere but to a 1989 Scientific American magazine article. Scientific American, May 1989, where Bob Lazar got all his Element 115 stuff from, right in page 68. The whole story is right there. Creating super heavy elements, published the same month and year that Bob Lazar came out. 5 months actually before he ever talked about Element 115. So he needed 5 months to read this article and come up with the Element 115 bullshit story. But in any case, that's the truth of it. It's all documented, scientific, verifiable, researchable fact. Unlike Jeremy Corbell and his Mike Thigpen interview that he can't even mention the guy's name anymore on Joe Rogan because he knows it's a lie. And that's all I have to say, man. I don't know what else to do, and it's just we have New York Times and Joe Rogan between all this mainstream propaganda and lies. How are we ever going to get this information or the truth out? How? And we need to come up with a viable strategy to figure out how to do this. And I don't know what to do. I don't know how else to put it, man. This is what needs to be done. And I'd much rather have we get someone else to go on Joe Rogan and take my place, because I do not want that kind of attention. And I just don't even care. The timing, dude. Man, I need a whole bunch of stuff for the website, dude. And it's never going to get done. I'm about ready to fire the guy I got working on it and hire somebody else. So if anyone does web development, web design, and can help me, please, drop me another line. If you reached out before and I've ignored you, it's because I had someone else I thought was competent working on it. So please, message me if you want to help me with the website. The other guy's been given a month and a half. I've offered him $900. I've offered him $1,000 once he gets it all set up, but he hasn't done anything. So he's done. I'm going to fire him right now. I'm actually going to call GoDaddy and tell them to lock him out of my account. And let's get some other more capable people on here. Get a teenager or a 20-year-old who's got time on his hands, who wants to put a website together. Someone. Please contact me. Help me out. thealienscientist@gmail.com. Any way that you have anything you have to offer or know what I can do to help get truth out and get information out, let me know. Get a hold of me, man. We're in this to fight together, and we're up against a army of well-connected, well-funded liars and disinfo propaganda agents who are flooding the mainstream with absolute lies and rubbish, disinfo, including the scientists too. Absolutely. Please interview me. Look, please reach out, thealienscientist.com, thealienscientist@gmail.com. And I would love to come on your show. I'd love to be interviewed and answer any and all of your questions that I can. So please, no, again, typos. Oh my God. I'm not even going to bother anymore. I don't know what the heck is. It's wrong. All right, typo. Here it is. The alien scientist. No, it is. Why does it keep doing this, dude? If I was a god, I'd be able to figure out my damn keyboard and my damn audio problems that I have all the time. You know, how is my audio? Oh, my audio has been going through my MacBook microphone the entire time. I've been talking into this mic, so it doesn't even. There we go. Great. I'm sorry, people. I'm going to try harder and try to do better, but unfortunately, I have a day job and kids and work and everything else. So I try my best. I try everything I can to bring good information and do what I can, but I'm only a man. Thank you guys all for watching. Have a good day, and let's take over ufology and oust these clowns and disinfo agents and stop and start putting our best foot forward, because we have the science, we have the metals. We need to get that out to the mainstream, and we need to get it out to the scientific community so they can start taking this subject seriously.